Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my final video of the year. Oh my god, I wonder if any YouTuber has ever made that joke ever before. Okay, so what I've got for you today, sorry, I couldn't resist. What I've got for you today is a Protoss versus Terran played on the new patch. As a matter of fact, this particular series, it's the grand finals of the ESL Open Cup 155 for Europe. Now, you won't be surprised to learn that spotting right here in the top right-hand corner, playing with the blue Protoss pieces, we have a MaxPax. MaxPax is making it to the grand finals. He has been making it. There you go. You gotta enunciate your words, Lowko. He's been making it to the grand finals of this particular weekly tournament pretty much every single week. So, yeah, no surprise to see him once again in the finals today as well. His opponent in the opposite corner with the little panda bear. No, not the panda bear. The polar bear. That's a different kind of bear. The polar bear spinning around on the main command center with the red SCVs. I mean, you already know who this is going to be, right? There's only one Terran player in Europe who's good enough to make it to the grand finals. Yeah, that has that polar bear. We're looking, of course, at Clem's main command center. Alrighty. Now, this is played on the new multiplayer balance patch. Terrans around the world are crying, Protoss players around the world are crying, Zerg players seem rather content with the balance changes, which on its own is probably pretty dangerous. That being said, let's discuss the changes that are relevant for Protoss versus Terran in general. Honestly, I don't think the Terran changes are very significant at all. I actually think they got out of here pretty well, but Terran players, at least on the internet, are still upset, which... when Terran players start being happy about a balance patch, that's when we really need to get very concerned, okay? But I've been going to the StarCraft 2, well, Battle.net forums, I've been going to the StarCraft subreddit, all things Terran, all things Protoss. Everything's on fire right now, guys. Anyhow, so real quick, the changes. Do we have anything spicy underway already? No, nothing all too crazy here. Everything is A-okay. I think we've got a little bit of time to discuss stuff. Alright, so for Protoss, the big one, shield batteries nerfed, disruptors nerfed, and forge upgrades are faster. So shield batteries, they basically are not as powerful as they used to be, which I think is honestly fair. They are one of the most boring units in all of StarCraft 2, or one of the most boring structures in all of StarCraft 2. Never been a big fan of it, but, you know, obviously Protoss did need something in the early game to not die. In the past, Blizzard tested out things like, for example, the Mothership Core. We had that in the game for a very long time. That was a massive band-aid to the early game of Protoss. And actually, yeah, I would say that the shield battery is overall a pretty fun structure. It's just that whenever, you know, you press the "Don't fight me for the next minute" button, it's not necessarily the most exciting thing in the world. So that one is a little bit weaker. There's been some talks recently about how that will affect triple Rex openers in particular. Some people have mentioned that triple Rex openers are going to be harder to stop if you go for example, a Colossus, because the Colossus will not be able to it won't be able to be kept alive for as long with that shield battery overcharge. Overall, though, I think that the Protoss players are going to be able to find a way around that without too many problems. The Disruptor one is another big one. So the radius has been reduced by 10% from 1.5 to 1.35. That, I believe, comes down, and someone did the math in a previous YouTube comment section, so I'm going to believe them, because I didn't run the numbers. I wouldn't even know how to run the numbers, to be perfectly honest. It's not that hard. But it's been a while since anyway, there's a 19% surface area, allegedly. About 20% surface area reduction on the Disruptor's Purification Nova, which is massive. We've got a Phoenix opener, by the way, from MaxPax here. Pretty safe start from Clem. Nothing all too crazy. Don't think he can really send a medevac across the map now, with these Phoenixes joining the battlefield very soon. At this point, has Clem scouted it? Yeah, he did see that there are Phoenixes, so he'll probably be sitting back here for a little while. I'll keep the... there you go. I'll keep the camera right here on the scariest unit of them all. At least for Clem at this point in the game. On the flip side, and I really think this is a big one, not a lot of people are discussing the Forge upgrade changes. So the Forge upgrades are 7, 9, and 11 seconds faster. So honestly, that adds up very quickly, especially with chrono boosts. You can really get upgrades done. If you scout, for example, that your opponent is going for a certain timing attack, it's actually possible to plant down a forge and then get your upgrades going. And, well, at least if you scout it early enough on the other side of the map, to actually get one of those upgrades finished. Like, it's a significant change. At least I think so. I mean, it's going to be, well, only time will tell. Phoenixes are thinking about committing right now. There is a Widow Mine, yeah, it's moving around as well. Only one Widow Mine at this point? No, there's two of them. Where's the second one? Oh, right over there. If I can't see it, MaxPax probably won't see it either. Always a little bit scary. Okay, so those are the changes, the most significant ones anyways for Protoss. For Terran, we've got the Ghost, right? The Ghost has changed. So it will have less EMP radius than it did in the past with the Enhanced Shockwaves upgrade. But the Enhanced Shockwaves upgrade has been removed entirely and the base EMP radius has been increased. Yeah, should I repeat that? No, I'm not going to. I'm sure you guys got that. Ravens also got reworked. They're a little bit cheaper now, and in general, just a little bit easier to get out. That being said, the auto turret energy is increased from 50 to 75, but the unit also spawns with more energy. Long story short about the Raven in particular, it's gonna be a little bit easier to mix it in. At least supposedly, it's gonna be easier to mix in the, for example, Terran versus Protoss matchup, and then the Terran versus Zerg matchup hypothetically as well. Because right now, it's mostly being used, at least in the current meta of StarCraft 2, it's mostly being used against Terrans only. And I honestly think that's probably the majority, right? I mean, there's the Banshee buff, there's the Cyclone buff. The Sensor Tower has 10% less range as well. The Observers are a little bit faster, but also a little bit bigger. The High Templar is a little bit faster. The Carrier obviously has different priorities, and things are changed a little bit. No Widowmine over here. Okay. So that actually means that these Phoenixes are getting a bit of... Oh, there was a Widowmine there. Okay. Widowmine in general, though. Getting a decent connection there. I think only a single Phoenix has gone down so far. So still a good trade here for MaxPax. Because he's also keeping his opponent pinned at home, right? And that's the real goal of this opener. You try to leverage your way into those Colossi. And, well, also a third Nexus. And both of those things are already here. The Sentry. I forgot the Sentry. I think that's it. The Sentry also now builds a little bit quicker than it did in the past. But I would say that the Purification Nova is probably significant for this matchup. The Shield Battery nerf is significant as well. And then I would say the Forge upgrades are probably also quite nice. I would really like to see a bunch of Protoss players actually experimenting with double Forge. Not really, I guess, when you go for a Phoenix opener, but it'd be kind of cool to see. Okay. At least that thick Observer right there got scouted right away. Phoenixes are getting a ton of damage now, guys. Not normally do we see Clem taking this much damage from Phoenixes. He's actually getting torn apart a little bit. So far, it's been one Observer, one Phoenix for all of that. Now, obviously, you want to trade efficiently with these units because they do lose value as the game goes on. As soon as the Terran player maxes out, these units just pop out of the sky in a heartbeat. But they can still, of course, be used for like a counter-attack or something along those lines. But generally speaking, the Phoenixes do have to be controlled a little bit better. We don't have a Ghost Academy or anything like that yet for Clem. He's only just now adding on those additional barracks as well. It all feels a little bit late. Whereas in the meantime, on the other side of the map, well, I think it's going to be 10 gateways in total. Yeah, 10 gateways in total. 8 more gateways are coming up. Together with the charge and then also the +1 ground weapons for Protoss. So if Clem does not move out soon, and honestly, already it's going to be a little bit tricky. There's 2 Colossi with, well, I believe the ranged upgrade. A third Colossus is just about to pop as well. They should have their ranged upgrade. There it is, the extended thermal lens upgrade. I don't think Clem can actually really move anymore. No, he can't really push in there. The problem is, if he sits back for too long, yeah, he's... Okay, now he does start up the Ghost Academy. He really does need EMP and Ghosts in general just to... well, get anything done against those Zealots. That Zealot warp in is going to be absolutely massive. MaxPax reinforcing this army 10 Zealots at a time is going to be very, very quick. Did not go for the Nexus on the right side of the map, instead opting to go for the one right here at the top. Fair enough. Okay, so Clem finally thinking about going for a move. I mean, honestly, he's walking himself into a trap. If you look right here at the production tab... okay, that's 2 pylons over here. That's nice, I suppose, but... MaxPax is just about ready to fight. Second Forge also coming up. Charge is going to finish up very soon. +1 ground weapons as well. This is not really the time to fight, I don't think, Clem. Especially without Ghosts. Like, you really do need EMPs against those Archons and those Zealots. A couple of Zealots over here as well being obnoxious. Warping in the main base too. Forcing that Terran army to go back home, and that's exactly what happens. MaxPax, however, says, you know what? I actually did want to fight you. Look at the Phoenixes here. Just right-clicked on top of one of the Colossus. Okay. So, the Sensor Tower, despite the fact that it has 10 less range, I think it went from 30 to like 27. It still spots that there's an army out there. Prism should be out as well, right? Prism... wait, did the Prism get killed? Oh, the Prism actually got sniped. There might still be quite a bit of an army advantage here overall, though. Yeah, there's a new prism coming up right now. Okay, I think he probably wanted to go for a big Zealot warp in right now. Still decides to take this engagement regardless. Ghost right here in the mix did EMP, so that's nice. Yeah, those Phoenixes don't have any energy right now, but obviously they can still shoot at the Metavex. 4th Command Center did not finish yet. A couple of Zealots managed to stop the SCV from building. +2/+1 coming up as well here from MaxPax, who's now going to make use of those forge changes. Okay, there's finally the prism. He's got enough minerals as well to do one big-ass warp in if he wants to. Doesn't even need it, though. I mean, honestly, yeah, the army right here. Oh, the army right here for Clem is just not big enough. Game number 2. We find ourselves on Cosmic Sapphire. Or, as they say in Germany, Kosmische Saphir. I still like that name a lot. I think Kosmische Saphir is really fun to say. Anyhow, it doesn't happen often, right? That we see Clem getting booped like that. I mean, honestly, he didn't really... I mean, he tried putting up a fight. Careful now. He tried putting up a fight, but it didn't go particularly well. By the time he finally had an army big enough to start contesting MaxPax, MaxPax just kept going and just continued moving, right? Anyhow, what exactly is going to be the build right here in game number 2? No tech just yet. Fair enough. Are you up to no good? Ah, okay. There's a cheeky little probe right here. That's the scouting worker that almost got killed by 2 SCVs that apparently has been tasked with building a pylon here over at what is normally the Terran's 3rd or 4th base. Yeah, there's no tech structure yet. So no Twilight Council, no Robo Facility, no Stargate. So a good old gateway opener? Not a bad choice at all. Maybe MaxPax looked at that game as well. He's like, you know what? I played very safe with my Phoenixes and stuff. I tried to play a very conservative game. But if you're, you know, giving me units left, right, and center, let me try and see if I can maybe out-micro you in the early game as well. Honestly, though, overall, the changes to the Protoss versus Terran matchup, none of those were particularly relevant in that previous game, right? I mean, we didn't see a single battery overcharge, did we? We didn't see a single disruptor either, did we? I mean, maybe that alone is already a good enough indicator, right? MaxPax going for the Phoenixes. Phoenixes in general are fantastic. Really good. Okay. Reaper, in the meantime, on the other side of the map. Is it going to be able to get into the main base and get a scout off? Okay, that's nice. It'll be a little while, though. In general, pro gamers usually not necessarily the most creative players out there. I mean, some of them obviously are, but there's a... It's like a hive mind, right? Like, collectively, people come up with build orders and strategies. And then eventually, you will try to well, learn from what your opponents are doing. And I guess what your colleagues and your rivals are trying to get done. And then you try to implement the best changes that they have gotten. And slowly, over time, strategies are decided on. Anyways, we do have a nice little commitment over here. Marines not chilling in the bunker. Apparently, they don't need to. Well, Jimmy would have liked to, but his arm... Okay, it's disappeared now. It's faded into the sands on Cosmic Sapphire, but... Not the worst of trades so far here for Protoss, but he needs to get a little bit more done. Maybe the Stalkers right now joining in can get exactly that. There's a Raven coming up. Siege Tank is out. That Siege Tank needs to get into a good position as well. Okay. Gets into a pretty damn good spot. Now it's suddenly difficult here for the Protoss to go in. I mean, he can shade on top of the Siege Tank if he wants to, but... Don't think that's necessarily the best goal. There's that Raven, so a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier to produce. It's got a little bit more starting energy as well. Okay, so you can't get as many auto turrets out, but you can still get one right at the very start. Ooh, actually a couple of adepts do shade in. Not really where you want them, especially when you have Stalkers on your front door too. This is now going to force a lot of the units into the main base. Blink is about a third of the way done, so no concerns there yet for Clem. But you always have to be worried, right, about a bunch of Stalkers blinking right on top of your siege tanks and shutting them down in just a heartbeat. Chrono Boost being utilized there by MaxPax. Is he going to go for a third Nexus? Looks like it. Still feeling pretty good about it, though. Considering now that there are 2 tanks, though, I don't think you can really continue fighting here. You can try and get into the main base, I guess, but you need some sort of high ground vision. So you can get high ground vision from an Observer, from an Hallucinated Phoenix, from a Prism. And those are coming up right now. One of those units is coming up, but... It's scary. It's difficult. You can only get in over here. Now, you can see the rally point right there of that Robo facility. It is set up all the way towards the back of the Terran's main, so there is a chance, but he's now going to leverage his way right here into a Robo Bay as well. I think that's a pretty good choice overall. No third Nexus yet, by the way. Interesting. Okay. So he's going to start poking a little bit more right here at the front. Trying to get some damage in. Snipe the bunker, but that's about it. Just putting pressure on, right? So normally we see this, yeah, in combination with a third Nexus. I think MaxPax is not quite done yet. I mean, there are siege tanks controlling all of the important areas here, though. But it's just a single siege tank, I suppose, which is kind of dangerous. Yeah, there's not a whole lot here to defend that one tank in the main base. Clem, once again, not expecting it. Raven does turn around right there at the last possible second. Good targeting as well here by Max, though. He gets out. He got himself one siege tank. Only lost one Stalker here in total in this game so far. But he did take a ton of damage. That guy apparently has been tasked with now sitting at the watchtower, I believe. At the very least, controlling the right side of the map a little bit. Okay, another supply depot goes down. Clem is getting pinned back really hard in this series so far, though. Like, normally there's going to be a big Terran army ready to march across the map here momentarily, but instead he decides to go for a third command center. Now this third CC feels kind of awkward as well, right? I mean, he's going to finish up combat shields here. Stimpack is already done, but he doesn't have any medevacs out yet, so... yeah, using Stimpack is dangerous, because you end up losing your own units. Prism back into the main base. Stalkers over here as well. Can always recall on out of here. Yep. Or we can just hang out. Sure, we can just hang out. And while this is happening, Colossus is coming up. Robo Bay is researching the ranged upgrade for said Colossus. 3-base economy is coming up here as well for MaxPax, who's probably going to be taking the gases here momentarily, or might be even thinking about making another Nexus if he's feeling really adventurous. Probably not the best call, but he sees the timing right here of his opponent's third as well. Okay, auto turrets finally getting some damage in on the other side of the map. Obviously, right now the Raven can no longer throw down 3 of those bad boys at once, and actually the command center here is targeted down. Gotta be so careful. Okay. Ambitious little move right there from MaxPax. A couple of units trying to cut off the retreat path here on those Stalkers as well, but MaxPax once again manages to get on out of there. The CC finishes. Now it's burning as it finishes, which... I don't know, man. If I bought that structure, I'd be very annoyed, right? At the very least, you know, you'd have to call the insurance company right away. I mean, if your newly built house immediately starts burning as soon as it finishes, that's not ideal. But luckily, an SCV is going to be able to patch it back up to full HP, but, yeah, still expensive. It's not free. The little polar bear agrees. Look at that thick observer, by the way. Does the observer really look that much bigger? So it's I think, like 17.5% bigger, if I recall correctly from the patch notes. It's... I wouldn't have noticed if you didn't tell me. Honestly, I probably would have never... It does look pretty big now that you stare at it, right? But that is also what she said. Anyways, no, but seriously, like the... yeah, it's faster. So I guess it can still get away out of a scan just about as easily. Ooh, a couple of units over here get... okay. Donated for essentially free. Stalker's now blinking forward as well. Clem does have a good amount of supply at this point. Plus, he secured his third base. That's important. Big warp in the main base as well. 4th Nexus at the 12 o'clock position on the other side of the map. Clem is just sitting back this entire series so far. It's MaxPax who's fully in the driver's seat. And now the Colossi have shown up on the other side of the map. Stalkers and Zealots are not being dealt with in the main base at all. Recall, however, is gonna come back home because he realized, wait a second, there's not enough units right here from the Terran player to defend against this. So that must mean they are in planes towards the other side of the map. Clem gets intercepted and pushed out of the game. Next up, we find ourselves on Waterfall. Clem has realized that he hasn't really seen his opponent's side of the map at all in this entire series, so he decides to start off this game by sending an SCV straight across the map. Are we gonna send a second one? Ooh, okay. Is that the plan? MaxPax's not really the kind of guy who will usually make a wall off on the top of the main base, but, I mean, imagine a probe would be heading on over in that direction right now. It would obviously see that there's a structure on the low ground, whereas Clem would have absolutely no idea. If a probe were to move over here in this direction right now and snipe the SCV that's building this barracks, that's essentially game over. Luckily for Clem, none of that is happening. Because once again, MaxPax has opted to go for his beloved wall off right over here. I mean, you can even finish it over here, right? With another structure, and then a Reaper that would jump like that would not be able to continue behind the mineral line. This is something that MaxPax likes to do, but stylistically at least, there's a lot of Protosses that are more than happy to wall off this section of the map. That's a little difficult to do, I guess, on Waterfall. Anyhow, MaxPax gets across the map. We talked about this, Lowko. Sorry, I'm just having conversations with myself now, apparently. This is what happens when you solo cast for too long. He scouts the double gas, and that's an important tell. He also scouts a polar bear, sticking his tongue out at him. Very toxic behavior. Okay, he's gonna patrol the probe around the main base of the... This is not the nicest patrolling here. He's gonna take a lot of damage, yeah. Needs to be a little bit more deliberate with that patrol line if he wants to. He's looking to see if there's anything exciting here. Now, at this point, he spotted that there was an SCV building something inside of his Netro as well. Zealot, however, was forced because of that. Nexus comes up before the probe dies. Nicely done. But there's nothing really available yet to deal with this one Reaper. How many kills will the Reaper get? So far, only a single one. Could have gotten the second one, but he's probably a little bit afraid. This is not justifying this opener at all, Clem. I mean, he got two... Wait, did he get two workers? He must have gotten the scouting worker on the other side of the map. Which of you bad boys has gotten a kill? Hold up, I need to go back. I need to find the bad boy that killed one of those workers. Is it you? I think it's him. Wow, dude. Look at that badass. Anyways, this is happening. Wow, okay. The Reaper could have gotten that additional kill. But I don't think this has really been, this opener at the very least has really been justified. The problem is, now that you have the barracks on the other side of the map, at some point you're going to have to lift off and get on out of there, right? I mean, as soon as there's an adept out, the Reapers are not going to have an easy time anymore. Yeah. So now you're going to have to make that flight of shame. The problem is, this is now forcing Clem into, once again, a very defensive game. Because pretty much all the timing attacks that Terrans like to go for, they're hinging on Stimpack, right? Without Stimpack, without combat shields, you can't really get that much done. So it's gonna be, once again, MaxPax who gets to decide the pacing of this match. Withermine is coming up. Starport is coming up. Command Center finally building as well. But economically speaking, I've got a feeling that MaxPax is pretty happy about this. Although he did hit a bit of a supply block. Hello? We haven't even started up a pylon. I guess he's waiting right here for the Nexus. But I don't think that's ideal. Okay. Withermine over here has been spotted, it seems, because MaxPax here is not really committing. He's just checking. He's just scouting. He wants to detonate it so bad. So if you do it perfectly, you can indeed get the Withermine to fire, but not at the actual shaded unit. It's a little bit dicey though. It's very easy to mess up. And now there's two Withermines. I think it's time to give up on that plan. Either way, Twilight Council's coming up, and we're already actually at 3 gateways. So MaxPax is going to be able to get himself a good army going here very quickly. Reapers here are still obnoxious. But the one Adept over here doesn't care too much. They're walking around hand in hand, the Zealot and the Adept that is. You love to see that, right? That's romantic. Now that he sees, though, that the Withermines are no longer connected to the main ramp, he must know that the Withermine instead, yeah, they're loaded up into a medevac, and oh my god, they're now being intercepted. Oh no. Clem. Clem is getting, oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, Clem is getting absolutely destroyed in this series so far. Pretty sure he must be feeling a bit tilted at this point. Anyhow, there you have it. Our first series of Protoss vs Terran with the new multiplayer balance patch played on the StarCraft 2 PTR. It apparently goes 3-0 in favor of MaxPax, who therefore wins the ESL Open Cup 155 for the European server.